Okay, so China have just announced a bunch of new regulations that are going to be affecting a number of car makers across China, but also the world as well. So we're going to go through what these regulations are and how they're going to affect the design and engineering of vehicles going forward. So the first one here is around mandating physical buttons for key functionality in the car, which is quite ironic given over the last few years, the Chinese market has actually been pushing very screen-driven interiors. It's what apparently the people want. And given China is now the biggest automotive market in the world, manufacturers from all around the world have been moving more and more towards the screen-driven interiors. One reason for this is basically just reducing the amount of distractions that are available in the car. And some of this key functionality is quite difficult to configure right now if it's all through the screen. So some of the functionality that should have physical controls as mandated by the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology include turn signals, horn activation, windscreen wipers, gear selection, power windows, ADAS controls, so all the safety controls, vehicle on and off, and any emergency systems, which all makes a lot of sense. Having to fiddle through a screen to go through different menus and do that while you're driving the car can increase the risk of an accident. So for sure, having any of these functionality not easily accessible poses an immediate danger to drivers and occupants as well. There are a few things, however, that they haven't mandated. So these are things like infotainment and media controls, audio volume and climate settings, and any kind of non-essential settings such as themes and lighting. I'm a bit disappointed that they haven't made things like climate control required to have buttons. I think climate controls are something that are fiddled relatively frequently in a car. They should be easily accessible. Even something like audio volume is just fiddly to do through a screen rather than just with a knob, as has been done for a number of years. I think, they could go a little bit further, but this is definitely a pretty good start. And we have seen this even without the regulations that are coming through from some manufacturers that are moving more towards buttons again. Volkswagen have said recently that their customers have been providing feedback saying they want more physical controls, and we're going to see that in the next generation of VW cars like the new ID Polo and ID Cross. Even Ferrari, who really championed capacitive buttons on the steering wheel to control pretty much all the functionality, those are moving back towards physical buttons now too. So regulation is great. Hopefully it will force more manufacturers to move back into a nice balance between buttons and screens when it comes to controlling key functionality, and also manufacturers as well, based on feedback coming through from their customers, hopefully trending more in this direction as well. So the next one is around mandating mechanical door handles. Every door handle must have a mechanically released handle. On the outside, you can't have flush door handles that are electronically controlled. In the interior, you must have a mechanical release for any door handles that are controlled electronically as well. All of these changes definitely make a big difference to being able to extract passengers out of a vehicle in the event of a crash or accident. Having just a wholly electronically reliant system to get in and out of the car obviously poses, a bunch of different dangers. So I think this is a great decision. I've always felt as well, electronic door handles don't really solve any problem. It's never been an issue to use mechanical door handles, especially on the inside of the car where we're seeing a lot of mechanisms. I'm thinking like Lexus and now even BMW, where the electronic mechanism is very similar anyway to the mechanical mechanism, which I think it's good as well because it helps people know what to do in an accident. They just need to pull a little bit harder to release the mechanical mechanism. But what's the point? You may as well just have the mechanical mechanism to start off with. So I think, again, this is a great change. It's funny because a lot of vehicles that are coming out now, thinking of, for example, the new BMW Neue Klasse models, have those flush and electronically controlled door handles. So with their midlife facelifts or updates, they're going to have to completely change that system anyway if they want to sell in the Chinese market. So yeah, these changes are not only just going to affect the Chinese market, they're going to affect the cars wherever they're sold across the world. But I only see this as a good thing as well. And finally, the last one here is around controlling the design of the steering wheels. I think most cars, they still have a fairly round or slightly squared off steering wheel, but we're starting to see some concepts, some early vehicles like the Lexus RZ an option for a yoke type steering wheel where the top is really sawed off, similar to a racing car. But in terms of safety standards, there's going to be new safety tests in China, specifically around 10 points in the steering wheel. So they measured the weakest and unsupported areas. It's going to be mandatory for all designs. So if there's no continuous upper rim, some of those test points don't actually exist at all. So those cars wouldn't pass those regulations. And test points are required because in the event of a crash, you don't want the driver to go full forward straight into the windshield or into the instrument cluster in front of them. You want some sort of barrier there. So being able to have that protection there is very important. Obviously with a yoke cut off, there's more of a risk of someone falling straight through the front of the car. I don't really think the yoke steering wheel was solving a problem. I think everyone's been fine with the round steering wheel. I guess there's more visibility if you cut off the top, but generally speaking, cars are well enough designed these days where even with a round steering wheel, you can still see well enough in front of you. So it's a solution looking for a problem. So I'm glad again that safety and cooler heads have prevailed, and this is going to be mandated to prevent any of these yoke steering wheels from coming to market as well. And then from a practical angle, it's also just annoying with a yoke steering wheel for basic maneuvers such as hand over hand. Any kind of muscle memory that you've built up with traditional steering wheels really goes out the window when you start trying to transfer to one of these yoke type steering wheels. So yeah, I'm glad that a lot of these changes are now being introduced across the board. And who would have thought that it would be China that has been pushing some of these more alternative designs, especially on the screen side and even the door handle side of things. But you give it then probably the most powerful and influential automotive market as well. It really had to come from them in order to change the industry. So it's a positive change, and hopefully if there are any other controversial design decisions made in the future by manufacturers, regulation quickly clamps down on them so it creates a better experience for customers and passengers and drivers alike. Let me know what you think about these regulations. I always think these are a good thing, but keen to hear your thoughts as well. So let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, feel free to subscribe. See you in the next one.